you look at the reasons that businesses fail, a lot of times it comes down to things that we just limit in our own mind, and we don't want to accept reality. We want to give into our own biases. And there's almost not a lot that you can do to help somebody like that.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding ProTalk Podcast, our regular discussion with building industry professionals. This is Fine Homebuilding contributing editor and production manager at TDS Custom Construction, Ian Schwandt. Today, I am joined by John Lenker and Assaf Arie of Lenker, a business marketing and strategy consulting firm in Delano, Minnesota. You can find the Fine Homebuilding ProTalk Podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding Podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. You can leave feedback and ask questions there too. So thanks, guys, for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
So, John, give us a bit of background about your company and how its founding came about.
Well, our focus really as a company is kind of twofold. The first thing is we provide growth consulting. And the second thing is we provide marketing services. And the reason we kind of start with growth consulting is that we really don't have much interest as a business in just doing a bunch of projects that are marketing related to, check a box, hey, new logo, hey, new website. We're really interested in participating in the process of helping businesses reach their growth goals. And so, a long time ago, we realized that in order to fully help a business, we need to be in a position where we can kind of see 360 degrees around a business and to kind of make sure that every part of the business is being thought through properly to be the most effective, to be the most efficient, and to be the most growth oriented. So, a number of years ago, I decided as the founder of the business that, I've got some things that I've done and some things I'm proud of in my career. But what I really want to do is bring in a few other people who have deep expertise in some of these other areas. I'm big into the vision and the creative and how do you inspire people. And I wanted to add a really serious business growth person who understood the numbers. And Assaf is the person that I asked to come into the company to not only provide those kinds of services to our clients, but also to kind of drive the growth of our own company, Lenker. Brought in another gentleman who is an expert on strategy. Brought in another gentleman who is a real expert in human psychology and human factors. And together, we kind of surround a business's situation. We dive deep into their needs, and we collaborate on a game plan that is going to start wherever that company is at, whether they're under $1 million or whether they're 3 to 5 million, and they want to triple, right? I want to get to be, I'm 1 million, I want to get to 3. I'm 5 million, I want to get to 15. And in the space of working with contractors in various aspects, we find that our background, which actually overlaps a lot into the world of construction, we find that we're really great collaborators with entrepreneurs who want to be leaders in their market. They want to stand out from their competition, and they want to invest their efforts into something that's actually going somewhere, right? Not just to spin their wheels from job to job to job. So that's why we formed Lenker, to be that partner for our clients. And, I don't know if Assaf wants to add to that, but I'm really proud of our team and I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing with people in the contracting world.
When you talk about surrounding the company 360 degrees, when you're thinking about a larger company, that's something that an executive or a leadership team within the company is already doing. So how important is it that you're coming in as a partner, especially in those small-sized companies, to help the owner, whether it's 1 or 2 person company or a 5-person company? How important is it that you're taking that 360-degree view and helping them with that?
Well, I think the way that I'm going to answer that is to tee up Assaf, because actually the way Assaf and I met was in the context of him coming into a business, playing a very specific role, and having a lot of responsibility on his shoulders to bring success in a number of ways. And what he was really looking to do was to bring in an outside partner to be a part of that process. And that's how we formed our relationship over a decade ago. And eventually it turned into such a successful collaboration that I kind of begged him for about 2 years to come in and take over as CEO of Lenker. So maybe, Assaf, you could answer that one from your perspective as someone with a lot of responsibility within an organization and looking to partner with an external partner like Lenker.
And the conversation started with businesses in that $1 million, $3 million, $5 million size businesses. And when you're in that size, the owner is an owner-operator at that point, and they're sucked in. The business just sucks them in. And they don't have the ability, and as smart as they are, they don't have the ability to get out of their situation and look at the business as a whole and truly get that 360, right? They may think, because they say, well, I live this business every day, I'm here every single day. No, you're sucked into receivables, you're sucked into payables, you're sucked into your the banking relationships, the fixing up errors, trying to hire staff, trying to manage staff. It sucks your time and doesn't really allow you to look at it from a business level, right? For like an MBA view of, here's the business trends, here's the goals, here's the KPIs, here are the margins, how are we doing on them? Are we managing on track? Are we below track? Or is it just a back pocket business? And what we notice is most of those businesses under 10 million, especially under 5 million, they're what I call a back pocket business. You have your wallet in the back pocket and you take your credit card out, or you have a couple bucks and you pay off as you go, right? And it's not really a managed business. It's the business managing you more than you manage the business as a founder. So when we come in, we get that true, what I call the MBA look. It's you get strong brains thinking through your business problems, identifying the inefficiencies, identifying the opportunities, and that's the benefit. That's how we come in, and that's what represents a different view. Even though the owner feels that he's there and he knows his business better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about a lot of small companies that I've worked for, and most of them are just happy to take whatever jobs come through the door, happy to take whoever on as a client, likely to stretch out into sectors or types of jobs that are outside of their expertise, making bad hires just kind of based on, oh, I met this guy, I think he'd be great, and you bring him in and doesn't do the job or isn't the right person for the seat. So how can having these strategies benefit the average construction company? And are these things that both of you see as being really important for a precursor to growth? Are you going to have a certain amount of this stuff figured out before you can even attempt to grow, as opposed to just the growth happening over time, as you called it, a back pocket business, which I think a lot of people who listen to this in the industry can resonate with that description?
Well, I think the place to really start the conversation is to acknowledge that not every business that sets out to, go and do very well is going to do very well.
Right.
There are things that get in the way. There are circumstances outside of your control. What's the economy doing? What's the competitive situation in your geographical area? What kind of reputation have you built? How big of an impact have the mistakes made so far on that reputation? And, there are many different kinds of barriers, but one of the most limiting barriers that we've found is generally coming from the founder, right? If a founder is in a place where they are really wanting to control everything that happens, and to have to understand at a technical level every decision that's made and have kind of micromanage, that's really going to slow them down and hold them back in a serious way. other competitors that are more nimble, that are more open, frankly, that are more teachable, will push things away that are holding them back very quickly to allow them to accelerate into success. And because of the way that we're structured as a business, when we go in and work with a contractor in a given space, so if it's roofing or remodeling or concrete or what have you, we don't work with any competitor in that market. So we're working with you and you alone. We like to think we become part of their competitive advantage. So it's super important right away that we figure out if we're going to be making that kind of commitment and working with you, that there's a basic compatibility, that you're bringing us in as trusted advisors, and that we're going to really analyze your situation. We're going to understand your competitive position. We're going to look at everything in your business, from the way you're spending money to the way that you're hiring to the way that you're structuring your brand and your messaging, to look at the things that can be improved and things that need to be eliminated and things that need to be added. And we together can come up with kind of a long-term game plan and then a shorter-term game plan to start making serious progress right away, right out of the gate. So I think that, the most important thing that we try to encourage, even if we have an initial conversation and we're not destined to work together, but just as a kind of friendly neighborhood advice we give is, really be open and be the one who's willing to grow and learn. Because if you're the one who's willing to grow and learn, you're going to move so much faster through your mistakes, and you're going to get to a place where you're able to gather the resources and build the war chest so that you can really go to work in terms of differentiating yourself in the market and being top of mind when people want to call somebody to get, a given job done. And I know that Assaf could add to this quite a bit.
Yeah. So, you asked if, what happened when a contractor can organically grow, right? And a lot of time they'll do well for a period of time, right? Because they're getting more jobs, cash flow comes in, and cash flow is king when it comes to construction. But if it's unplanned growth, if you don't have your direction, it will catch up to you at some point, right? You will start compromising either the quality, the hiring, your billing, your accounting. You'll start compromising something on the way. And if you don't have the strategic plan of here's how many people I got to hire in the office, here's the new positions I'm going to open as I'm going to hit new milestones, and here's why. And really, even when you're a $1 million business, get the roadmap for you getting out to 10. That's typically when someone comes in at that $1 million to $5 million, you want to see the roadmap to 10. It comes, 5 to 10, you want to see the roadmap to 15 or $20 million, right? And work those numbers forward and backwards to see what you'll need, and then backwards to what can you afford, right? And it's driven from the top line and the gross margins, and then the marketing helps you circle back to what it takes to get that top line, right? The understanding your lead costs, customer lifetime value, gross margins, so conversion rate and all that. So that helps you that figure out that number. And then you start dropping down to produce, $10 million. What does it take in field crew? What does it take in office? What does it take on sales? What a reasonably expectation from a salesperson in a commercial field and a residential field. And that helps. And when you understand those ratios, you can build a map, and then there's no surprises, right? And then John mentioned also, I've seen businesses double in 1 year, right? Moving from 1.5 to 3 million, one job, right? We have a client, actually, a roofing contractor, one job, commercial project, $1.5 million, made zero on this job, right? That was a few years ago. We were not a partner with them at the time. We became partner with them 2 years ago. And that job was 1 or 2 years before we start working together. So 3-4 years ago. How fun that is, right? You think overnight, you open the bottles of champagne, $3 million company overnight, we doubled our size. But I can stay home and break even. I don't need to go to work and break even, right? So that's, not understanding the risk of, that one job could take a company down, and it have taken companies down, right? If that tips a little bit and you lose money, right? That could take you down. That could get you out of business. So that's the controlled growth. I would pass on a job that size when you're $1.5 million. I will take it when you're 10 million. It's still 15% of your revenue. It's still a big chunk, but that's okay. 15% of the revenue, that 15% of your profit at the end of the year, even if it tips or break even or lose, it's you're still going to be afloat. But when this is half your revenue, if that loses money, you may be wiped. Because, a commercial job like this, it may take you 90 days, 120 days to get paid. Your expenses are already paid. Your labor paid weekly, and your materials net 30. So you're out of pocket for so long. And then there's retention. That may take a year to get paid. So not understanding that can really take a company down. So that's where you really want to plan your growth. And I understand that, 0 to $1 million, it's very much back pocket. You're establishing yourself. You're learning your qualities and what makes customers happy, what you're good at. But once you hit that $1 million, you really want to start planning the growth, that roadmap from 1 to 10, right? Unless you want to stay at, I call it $1 million business, it's a lifestyle business. So you don't have to work too hard if you don't want to grow more than that. You stay there, 700,000, 800,000. You can do a living in the United States doing that. You're not going to be super wealthy, but you'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll have a little boat. You have a little house in the suburbs. You'll do fine.
I think a lot of people, especially tradespeople who get into the sole proprietor game in their given trade, it is more of a lifestyle than it is actually a business. And it's a way to play a lot of golf or go on a lot of trips or be there for your kids, whatever your real thing that you're interested in is. Have you seen any companies since a lot of the easy money has gone away post-COVID that really blew up and did that doubling of size in a very quick time, come into these troubles now that money's tighter, it's harder to finance projects, and they're having to contract back down to size? How does working with somebody like you keep a company on track when those events happen throughout the life cycle of the company?
Well, you get someone like me that is always paranoid and tells you, "Hey, this is a printed economy." Yeah. All around the world. It's not just the U.S. It's U.S., Europe, Asia, everywhere. It's just trillions of dollars just funded inflation. Right? It was too easy, and I used to tell everybody, "Hey, prepare to the day after because this will go away. It's going to be really painful. Inflation will be high. Interest will go up. You won't be able to finance your equipment and your vehicles at 1% or 0%. Those days are all gone. I mean, where are the days that we got 0% interest rate on your vehicle, right? Vehicle equipment, mortgages. It doesn't exist anymore. And knowing that in advance, that's the planned growth. Knowing in advance allows you to plan for it and get your ducks in a row, knowing that one day it will end, that party is over. What can we establish, or where can we establish ourselves that will be meaningful and strong enough in the market to not be affected by it, at least not affected enough to suffer. It affects, I think, almost every business in the U.S. besides payday loans.
It's a net positive for them.
It's pretty positive for them. They like recessionary times and high interest rates because people will come in and put a car title or a paycheck collateral and they'll get paid.
Assaf gave a very technical answer. I'm going to give more of a psychological answer to that same question. And the question being, how have some of the companies you've been involved with fared, kind of post-COVID? And I can think of a few clients that have doubled and continue to grow and do well and have huge, huge plans that it was almost like everybody else's lack of preparedness sunk them, which then created a better market for them because they had made smart decisions. But then I can also think of at least one example, maybe two, of clients that were so determined to hold on to their ideas and their fears and their anxieties, which largely weren't based in reality. It was based in personal bias and fear, that, maybe I'm not saying that they failed or anything, but they certainly haven't grown. If anything, they've treaded water through the process. And really the psychological part is it really comes down to the attitude of the business involved. Everyone I'm thinking of is kind of established, high-end, doing, has a lot of potential, a lot of reasons why people should hire them because they do great work, right? But within that context, I can think of a few that just crushed it and grew. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the world was throwing at them. They were finding a way to navigate through it because of their basic attitude and perspective. And at least one that just kind of treaded water because of fear of not wanting to, go into a place that was maybe not as familiar or comfortable. And really what we bring to the table as a partner is to bring some relative safety around making changes and making adjustments that maximize the probability of growth, maximize the probability of surviving some kind of bad case scenario that happens in the market. And I really believe that when you look at the reasons that businesses fail, a lot of times it comes down to the lies that the founder tells him or herself, right? It comes down to things that we just limit in our own mind, and we don't want to accept reality. We want to give into our own biases. And there's almost not a lot that you can do to help somebody like that. But the ones who are like, look, I know that I've got my areas of strength, but hey, I need brain surgery. I'm not a brain surgeon. So when I come to you to do the brain surgery, I'm not going to make you educate me to the degree to where I can have an MD and can do a brain surgery myself. But I'm going to trust you based on your reputation, based on your experience, that when you give me the advice that matches up with my needs, that I'm going to trust your expertise. And believe me, and it's not just in this sector. I mean, there's a lot of sectors where you'll have a founder that unless they can do the procedure themselves, unless they understand it at that technical level, it's not real and they won't trust it. And those people stay so limited. Their growth is so stunted as a result. So we're really looking for businesses that want to know the truth, to be responsible, to realize that they have been given this opportunity. They are stewards of this opportunity, and they want to see it thrive. And they understand that I don't know everything about branding. I don't know everything about business process management. I don't know everything about the way to recruit and sort of the money side of planning my growth. I don't know everything about how to interface with bankers so that they really believe in me and get behind me. When you start to realize, I'm a really great roofer, and the guys that work for me like me, and I think I've got a lot of potential. But the minute you say, okay, you've got to go get a PhD in branding and marketing and business financing and all that, I mean, just think about how long that's going to take you. And we see that. We see people who are spending all their nights and weekends studying and how to build a website and how to design a brand and how to do all these different kinds of business practices. And while they're trying to become this big guru, all their competitors are passing them by. And Assaf probably can think of stories. I can think of stories, but the really, I think, again, we love it when people want to work with us and hire us. But just being, giving friendly neighborly advice to anybody listening, the first thing that we like to say is, you just got to get to a place where you can be honest with yourself. What are your skills? What are your weaknesses? Where really are you in the market? And, if people, you say, well, yeah, everybody's doing that. Well, if that were true, then most businesses wouldn't fail. And when Assaf goes and does an audit with a client, when they come in, because we look at all their finances and where they're spending money for 3 years in the past, we wouldn't see so much waste. We wouldn't see, we have people say, I can't afford Google ads, but you've got a $1,500 F-150 payment. Which one do you think is really helping your business grow right now? Right. So this is it. If there's any theme, maybe it's just like right now, because we do see so many businesses that have failed through all the pandemic and everything, is, the biggest favor you can do first is just to be honest with yourself. And really, Lenker is a firm that's here for those who are ready, right? They're ready for that. They're ready to see the truth, to let us kind of examine what's going on and give them really serious advice. And the fact is, the way that we structure our deals with clients is we have an initial engagement that we call a focus engagement. It takes about 12 to 15 weeks. We work really closely with you. We do a deep dive. We get everything we need to know about your market. And we come up with a game plan based on your current reality that will help you achieve certain very specific milestones on a calendar that is invaluable. And the cost of that is about as much as having a head count for a few months. I mean, it's not very expensive to get like the smartest game plan that, by the way, when you go to your banker and show this game plan, they're like, wow, you're the most serious person I've ever had come through my door. My confidence in you is greater, right off the bat than, 90% of the people who come through that door. And any investment you make in getting that world's smartest possible answer to your own growth, I mean, you probably waste 3 times that amount of money every year on lattes and, ridiculous, mistakes that just end up submarining your potential. So when somebody's at a place where they're ready, I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to be one of the top competitors in my market within the next 3 years. And I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And we've built our reputation on we're like your lawyer or your accountant. We're here to protect your best interests. We're not here just to do some projects for you and kind of make everybody feel good. We're here to analyze what your growth path is, what the key milestones are, and focus on really smart thinking around what is the order of operations necessary to truly reach each one of those goals. And we're involved in the monitoring, the collecting of data, the making the tweaks as we go, to make sure that happens, right? So that's it in a nutshell. When people are ready to truly enter in, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I think for your listeners, and we're working with multi-billion-dollar companies right now. We're not just working with startups, and it always comes down to the same thing. There's somebody in a position who's got the responsibility to bring change or growth, whether it's an individual solopreneur or whether it's a $15 million company trying to get to 45, or whether it's somebody running a department or a division in a multi-billion-dollar company that needs to bring this change. In each of those situations, they need a team to come around them, assess their exact situation, and come up with the smartest plan so that they will ultimately win.
Join us again next week for the second half of my conversation with John and Assaf. And please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. Please like, comment, or review us wherever you're listening. It helps others find the podcast.